My name's Colin. I live in Bath in the southwest of England. This is my channel, the A Nay or Meh channel. And this is what is probably going to be a very long video, because what I'm doing today, I'm going to be doing two different things, two different phases of kind of the same thing. Last year, when I started doing prediction videos for the 2026 Oscars, the starting point for me was the announcement of the lineup of the Cannes Film Festival. And that is what is happening today. I always intended to do my first Oscar prediction video for 2027, the 99th Oscar ceremony, after the lineup for the Cannes Film Festival was announced. And I knew that the Cannes lineup was going to be announced today, April 9th, 2026. What I didn't fully appreciate was the fact that there was going to be a lineup announcement video released on the various websites and everything, including YouTube. And I realised this just in time. We were within minutes of the lineup being announced, supposedly with English. I mean, whether it's going to be simultaneously translated or subtitles or something, there does seem to be an English language stream of the lineup announcement for the Cannes Film Festival. And I've got it paused on my laptop. So yes, I'm going to be doing a live reaction to the 2026 Cannes Film Festival lineup. I don't know how well this is going to work. This could be an utter mess, but since I have the opportunity to do it, and I don't think many other people will, because it's all like 5 a.m. in America, but it's only 10 a.m. here in the UK, so I'm not sure there's going to be all that many live reactions to the Cannes Film Festival lineup, so that's what I'm going to do. And after that, I'm going to do what I always intended to do. Phase 2 of this video is going to be my very first predictions for Best Picture for the 2027 Oscars, given the information we will by then have of the Cannes Film Festival lineup, because that is kind of when award season starts, in my opinion. So that is what the second half of this video is going to do. And I'm going to be talking about last year and talk about at least 40 films that I want to mention in terms of the 2027 Oscars. But that's going to be phase 2. And I'm kind of doing a catch-up thing here, because I really wasn't expecting the video. Well, I suppose I should have expected, but I didn't know that there was going to be a video announcement. So I'm kind of scrambling to actually do this on time and in the right way. So, yes, I'm going to first react to the announcement of the lineup. Then I'm going to stop, and then, given that information, I'm going to edit the draft list of films I want to talk about in terms of Best Picture contenders. So, yeah, all right. Things potentially to anticipate for the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, there's always anticipations as to what is going to show up at the Cannes Film Festival. We have things like maybe finally Terrence Malick's The Way of the Wind is going to show up at the 2026 Cannes lineup. That's potential. There's whispers that Jane Schoenbrun's new film might even show up at the Cannes Film Festival. If it does, it's almost certainly going to be a midnight screening, but there's a chance. And is that maybe something to look out for? Although having a film called Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, is that going to end up being anything like an Oscar contender? I hope so, because I love Jane Schoenbrun's work. They are such a talented filmmaker with such a unique perspective and voice. So that's something to look out for. Is Joel Coen's Jack of Spades even finished? That might happen. Michael Cera's film Love Is Not the Answer. Who knows? James Gray's Paper Tiger. I mean, James Gray is one of those directors who ought to be an Oscar contender, but never is. Christian Mungiu's Fjord. Without knowing anything else, I think that right now is my favourite for the Palme d'Or. Everybody assumes it's going to be in the lineup. So Christian Mungiu's Fjord. Maybe Pedro Almodovar's Bitter Christmas. That could happen. Kantemir Balagov's Butterfly Jam, the Russian director who did the Beanpole a few years ago, which honestly I didn't like very much. And he seems to be one of those, auteurs who says, "Oh, cinema is broken, I'm retiring." But now he's back with an English language film. Who knows? Andrei Zvyagantsyev's Minotaur. Andrei Zvyagantsev's very talented director, but he is Russian, and that's an issue on a couple of different levels. Even though he's a dissident Russian filmmaker, it still could be an issue. Pavel Pavlikovsky's Fatherland / 1949. I'm not. Whichever title ends up getting used, if it is in this lineup, and there's whispers that it might be, that would instantly become one of the major contenders for the Palme d'Or, I think. Maria Kreutzer's got a new film out, apparently. That's the director of Corsage from a few years ago. That was a very good film. Cleo Barnard's got a new film out, apparently. I See Buildings Fall Like Lightning. Okay. Asghar Farhadi's Parallel Tales. I mean, this is a French language film, so that's that has a good chance of getting into Cannes if it's ready, if it's finished. Yeah, that is a film that might have issues, and I might talk about that at some point. Arthur Harari, Oscar winner Arthur Harari, who is Justin Trier's husband and got an Oscar for writing Anatomy of a Fall. He's got a new film called The Unknown, but the buzz isn't particularly positive about that, and it sounds potentially kind of off-putting. It's about a body swap thing. I mean, Leah Seydoux is a woman who gets inhabited by the consciousness of a man, and Leah Seydoux can pull that off, but it sounds kind of average. But we shall see. I mean, if it's ready, it's French, it's a known quantity or something of a known quality in Arthur Harari, so maybe that'll get in. Of course, Quentin Dupuy's got a new film out, Fulfill. Not an Oscar contender. I mean, Quentin Dupuy is deliberately off-putting and weird. Radu Jude's got a new film, The Diary of a Chambermaid. I mean, Radu Jude is a very talented filmmaker, but he's so fucking prolific. I mean, how many films has he made since Bad Luck Banging Looney Porn? Something like 3 or 4. Is this one that will actually stick? So that's something. Laj Lee has got a new film out, Dumas Black Devil. I wonder if that's actually about Alexandre Dumas. I don't know. But I will always resent Laj Lee for the fact that Les Miserables got the French Oscar submission over Portrait of a Lady on Fire that year. And speaking of Les Miserables, apparently there's a new adaptation of that. Well, it's a film called Les Miserables, so I'm assuming it's an adaptation of the Victor Hugo novel from Fred Cavai. Not a name that instantly means anything. Ryusuke Hamaguchi has a film out called All of a Sudden. Now this, I think, is potentially a very, very strong contender because Ryusuke Hamaguchi is an Oscar-winning director for Drive My Car, but this is a film in French, and it's got Virginie Efira in it, one of the most high-profile actresses in France, so that's definitely something to pay attention to if it's in. Hirokazu Koreeda has 2 films out, potentially in 2026, Sheep in the Box and Look Back. Sheep in the Box is kind of an AI kind of thing. A couple adopts a robot child, and Look Back is an adaptation of the manga, which has already been turned into a very, very good animated film from a couple of years ago about 2 young girls who want to become manga artists. It's a really, really good film. I mean, it goes a little bit wild, extravagant towards the end, but it's a really, really good story, and Hirokazu Koreeda doing that. Na Hong Jin has a new film out called Hope. He's the director of The Wailing from a few years ago, but this one, I think it's set in Korea, but amongst the cast list is Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander. So, a couple working together. I'm not sure if they're married, but they are a couple, or have been a couple. Gal Garcia Bernal has apparently directed a film, Hombre al Agua. Maybe that'll be in the list. Oh, Kautia Banhania has a new film called Mimesis. This was the film she stopped producing in order to do the voice of Hind Rajab, which deservedly got an Oscar nomination for International Feature. Yeah, okay, the list that I've got here, I think those are the ones that really stand out to me. So let's see how many of those actually end up in the lineup. Now let's see if this actually works and the stream can give the information. Okay, that was kind of a waste of time. I did watch the video from the Cannes Film Festival, and there was a very long speech from the festival director, then a very long speech from the artistic director, who then just stumbled his way through, or started to stumble his way through, a list of the things that was going to be in the sections. And given that he was speaking in French and then there was simultaneous translation, it was a mess. I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So it's about an hour or so later from what I recorded a bit earlier, and I'm using the list from Wikipedia, which is definitely incomplete because there will be more films added in the next week or two, and it's probably inaccurate given it's Wikipedia, but this is what I have. So yeah, stuff that actually made it into competition at Cannes, competing for the Palme d'Or. All of a sudden, from Yusuke Hamaguchi, made it in. Bitter Christmas from Pedro Almodovar actually made it into competition, which I think is mildly surprising, maybe. I mean, I expected it to be in Cannes, but maybe not in competition for the Palme d'Or, but Bitter Christmas from Pedro Almodovar's in. Coward from Lucas de Hont. All accounts said that wasn't ready yet, but it's competing for the Palme d'Or, so that's very interesting. I mean, I love Lucas de Hont. I mean, his first film, or the first internationally recognised film, Girl, in general, it's a pretty good film, but it's a really, really bad ending for that film. Deals with trans issues in not a very healthy way. But his follow-up to film to that, Close, is outstanding. So I'm really interested to see what Lucas de Hont does next. And apparently this is about a coward in the First World War, so interesting. Fatherland by Pavel Pawlikowski is in competition, and that is right near the top of my list now, because it's definitely coming out, it's definitely in competition. I think it's either Fatherland or Fjord, which also made it into competition. Those, I think, are the two frontrunners for the Palme d'Or, which will be reflected in my list when I get onto that in a moment. Hope from Na Hong Jin, the guy who directed The Wailing. That actually made it into competition, so maybe it isn't just the genre film. It's interesting that made it into competition. Something which I'm not sure was on anybody's radar, Ira Sachs' new film, The Man I Love, is in competition. Now, Ira Sachs is a cool filmmaker. He's a filmmaker I like. I mean, I think the closest he's come to an awards-baity type film is Love is Strange, which is really cool. Queer drama. He also did Keep the Lights On, Little Man, Passages, which was really cool. I didn't particularly like his last film, Peter Hujar's Day, but there were certain people who loved that film only last year. I mean, that only came out in UK cinemas a couple of months ago. But yeah, Ira Sachs' new film is in competition in Cannes. It apparently stars Rami Malek and is a musical. Okay, maybe that's something we need to pay attention to, but Ira Sachs doesn't generally get into awards consideration conversation. We shall see. Minotaur from Andrei Vyagintsev made it into competition. It's kind of expected. Parallel Tales from Asghar Farhadi did make it in, which I suppose is kind of expected since it is a French language film, and like Ryusuke Hamaguchi with All of a Sudden, it's a French language film, albeit an Asian director, so that probably helped. Sheep in the Box from Hirokazu Koreeda did make it into competition. That does seem like the awards shout and look back is more maybe a populist choice, maybe. And The Unknown from Arthur Harari did make it into competition, which is interesting. Out of competition, we have Her Private Hell, the new film from Nicholas Winding Refn. It was the first new Nicholas Winding Refn film for a very, very long time. But I actually really like The Neon Demon, so we shall see. Probably not an actual contender for awards, but interesting that it is premiering at Cannes. Yeah, the big news. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, the new film from Jane Schoenbrunn, is at Cannes, but it's not a midnight showing. It's in the Un Certain Regard section, and it's opening the Un Certain Regard section. Maybe we can take this seriously? I mean, this has been one of my most anticipated films since I first heard about it, because, as I said a bit earlier, I love the work of Jane Schoenbrunn. But the fact it's in the Un Certain Regard section, it's not a midnight screening. Maybe it's actually good, or good enough to be a genuine awards contender. Or certainly in the conversation, we shall see. But that's the one that really stands out to me, is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is opening the Un Certain Regard section, which I'm really, really pleased about. So that's what did make it in. Stuff from the list I had earlier that didn't make it in. James Gray's Paper Tiger, not in there. Michael Cera, Love Is Not the Answer, not in there. Joel Coen's Jack of Spades is not in there. But yeah, I'm mildly concerned about Jack of Spades, which I'll probably be talking about later. Maybe that's going to be a Venice thing. We shall see. And Terrence Malick's The Way of the Wind. I mean, that's vaporware at this point. I'd kind of be surprised if we ever see The Way of the Wind from Terrence Malick. Kantemir Balagov's Butterfly Jam is nowhere to be seen, which is interesting. I mean, that was one that people have been whispering about for a long time. Oh yeah, that's going to show up at Cannes, but it hasn't. Maybe that's one that's going to be added in a bit later, but for right now, the fact it isn't in the Cannes lineup, I think we can ignore that for the time being. Maybe it's going to end up being that indie film that could and is actually going to get in there, but the fact it's not currently in the Cannes lineup, that's interesting, that's concerning. Oh yeah, the Cleo Barnard film didn't make it in. Who knows if... until I saw it on this list, I hadn't even realised that Cleo Barnard had a new film out, so is it even ready? We shall see. Oh yeah, Radu Jew's The Diary of a Chambermaid. That's going to show up at some point. I mean, like I said earlier, he's so prolific, just shoving stuff out there. Oh yeah, the new Kautia Ben-Hania film, Mimesis, didn't make it in. Again, that might be a situation where it's just not ready yet. Yeah, I think those are the major ones that didn't make the cut. But yeah, Kantemir Balagov's Butterfly Jam not being in the lineup, that's kind of concerning. Yes, that is the lineup for the Cannes Film Festival, and now that I have the information from that, it is time to give my first list of previews and predictions for the 2027 Oscars, the 99th Academy Awards. And my list from last year, which I am putting up here, I didn't do great. My first list last year, which is about a year ago, actually it was the 25th of April and this is the 9th of April, but about a year ago that was my list and I only got 3 out of the top 10 right, mainly because the last 2 slots on my 10 I took pretty big swings on what I thought was going to get the big shouts coming out of Cannes. Eddington was a complete whiff. I knew it was a risk, but I did it anyway. And I knew that the safer bet for the, foreign language film that does well at Cannes, I knew the safer bet was Sentimental Value, but I went for the riskier pick of Sound of Falling. Didn't work out. I mean, as you noticed, 11 and 12 on that list is Sentimental Value and One Battle After Another, because at that point, a year ago, I just didn't believe in One Battle After Another. It looked like Inherent Vice after the first trailer. It was only after the second trailer I started actually taking it seriously. But yeah, I didn't believe in One Battle After Another. And yeah, I had Hamlet at 14, was it? And yeah, I missed that one, but not by too much. But yeah, in my first list in April 2025, I only got 3 out of the 10 right. So it's probably going to be somewhat similar to this year. So here we have my first list for 2027. And the top of the list is really not that hard to figure out. It's The Odyssey. It's what everybody's got number 1 at this point, because why wouldn't you? Sir Christopher Nolan is one of the best directors out there. He's got a cult-like following, and he is adapting the origin of Western literature. So why wouldn't you say The Odyssey is going to do well? I mean, it's the standard choice at this point. The fact that he's doing it only a couple of years after he completely swept with Oppenheimer maybe reduces the chances a little bit, but knowing what we know now, I think the really safe bet, the standard bet, is The Odyssey. And you can say the same thing about Digger, the new film from Alejandro González Iñárritu, starring Tom Cruise. And that's a strange combination. And from what I understand, not that we know very much, we've got a very coy, very abstract teaser trailer for Digger at the moment. But from what I understand, it's Tom Cruise under prosthetics. I don't know. Iñárritu's last film, Bardo, I actually quite liked. I think it was incredibly self-indulgent, but that was the point. And it looked amazing. I mean, it deservedly got a cinematography nomination. But Bardo wasn't an awards film. It was a surrealist odyssey. And very, very personal. But I liked Bardo, but that was the last time that Iñárritu did anything. So now he's back with Digger. We don't know what this is, really. It could be Don't Look Up. It could be a kind of film where it's got, it's trying to hammer you with its message, and that doesn't actually work. But at this point, I think Digger is a very, very safe bet for a nomination at the Oscars. And yeah, the next two, we have what I consider right now to be the 2 favourites to win the Palme d'Or at Cannes. And with very few exceptions over the last few years, the Palme d'Or winner at Cannes does get in. I mean, the only exceptions are Titan, which was just weird, and how that even won the Palme d'Or, I'm not sure. And last year, it was Just an Accident, which should have fucking got in. That was my favourite film of 2025, and it didn't get in. And F1 got in. Fuck off. So yeah, the Palme d'Or winner at Cannes almost always gets nominated. And I think the Palme d'Or is either going to be Fjord, the new film from Christian Mungiu, with Oscar-nominated actors in it, Renata Reinser and Sebastian Stan. Very hot-button issue about prejudice and exclusion, about a Romanian, very ultra-religious Romanian family moving to Norway and getting caught up in what sounds like kind of a witch hunt. So it's got that kind of thing going for it. And Christian Mungiu is a really, really great director. I mean, he's won the Palm in the past with 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. His last film, RMN, I thought was excellent. So yeah, Christian Mungiu's Fjord, right now, I would say, is the favourite for the Palme d'Or, especially since what I personally thought when I heard about it, oh yeah, that's going to win the Palme d'Or. Ruben Östlund's film, The Entertainment System is Down. Apparently that might not even be ready for next year's Cannes Film Festival. How hard is it to edit and make a film which is entirely set on an airplane? But I mean, as I've said in the past, I'm not the biggest fan of Ruben Östlund's work, but I think that the Palme d'Or is either going to be Fjord or Fatherland, Pavel Pawlikowski's film. I think now that I know this is coming out, now that I know it is premiering in competition at Cannes, it sounds pretty locked in to me. Pavel Pawlikowski has Ida in his past, has Cold War in his past. With the modern attitudes, the modern makeup of the Academy, I think both of those films probably would have got into Best Picture. I mean, he got a Best Director nomination for Cold War. I believe both Ida and Cold War got cinematography nominations. I don't know if this film's going to be in black and white as well, but I think Fatherland, well, it's listed on Wikipedia as Fatherland. It might be 1949 as the title. I don't know. But whatever Pavel Pawlikowski's new film is entitled, I think it's a very strong shout to win the Palme d'Or and get at least a nomination for Best Picture. Then we have Martin McDonagh's new film, Wild Horse 9. Martin McDonagh has background in Bruges, which this very much looks like the incredibly similar vibe to In Bruges, as well as things like Banshees in Inisherin and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. But this is, old school Martin McDonagh, for want of a better term, going back to his roots of things like In Bruges. It feels pretty safe. It feels like a pretty safe bet to get into the Academy Award Best Picture lineup. And yeah, now we have a couple of blockbusters, because, I mean, over recent years, a couple of things which you can pretty much guarantee happening is we'll have at least 2 international features, foreign language features, and at least 2 blockbusters getting into the 10 film Best Picture lineup. Arguably, you could say The Odyssey is a blockbuster, but the first of the actual genuine undeniable blockbusters I'm putting in is Project Hail Mary, which is one of the few films I've actually seen as of yet in this list. And yeah, it's been a big hit. I mean, the critics love it, the fans love it. There's also something which has happened pretty regularly over recent years, is a film that was released very early in the year getting all the way to the Oscars, like Sinners last year and Everything Everywhere All at Once a couple of years before that. Of the films which have been released so far, I mean, and I am recording this at the beginning of April, Sinners was just about to come out this time last year. Project Hail Mary seems like the only option which can do that, be a film released very early in the year and actually get a nomination. And I liked it. Ryan Gosling is charming. The relationship between Ryan Gosling and this very alien thing, is charming. I mean, the idea of traveling many light years out into space in order to try and save the planet, or save the sun, and thereby saving the planet. As somebody with something of a science background, I did briefly do chemistry at university. The solution they come up with, I think, yes, you're solving the problem right in front of you, but that's going to cause many problems off into the future, and I don't think that's addressed enough. But yeah, I think it was nice. I think it was entertaining. Personally, I don't see it as a genuine contender to win Oscar, but I think it's got a decent chance of getting nominated. And right now, I think it's certainly a safe bet to put in as a Best Picture nominee. So yeah, Project Hail Mary is on the list. And the other outright blockbuster I'm putting on this list is the new film from Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day. Steven Spielberg, working in populist cinema, even that usually or often gets into the running. Going way back in the day, things like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all that kind of stuff, Jaws. But recently he's been doing things like The Fabelmans and Ready Player One and West Side Story. Yeah. And from what we've seen of Disclosure Day, it could just be a sci-fi thriller. It could just be a piece of entertainment. But right now, I would say that this is, alongside Project Hail Mary, Disclosure Day is the best chance for an outright blockbuster to get in the list. I mean, there's a couple of others which I'll be talking about in a minute, which many people might say have better chances, but I think there's going to be room for an outright blockbuster, another outright blockbuster. And I think my pick at this point would be Disclosure Day, although there are a couple of options, which I'll be talking about in a minute, which arguably would be better choices. We shall see. We will see if I'm proved right, but right now my choice is Disclosure Day to get into the 10. Okay, next we have another film which has premiered at the festival. This is the big hit coming out of Sundance this year, Josephine. There are things to recommend this. I mean, a small-scale American film coming out of Sundance, there is history of that being a success. There are issues with this, however. It's apparently really, really dark. I mean, it's about a 6-year-old girl witnessing a rape and how she and her family deals with that. Really heavy subject matter. It's from a director who doesn't have a great deal of profile up until this point. However, at this point, I would strongly, strongly recommend you watch Beth D'Araujo's previous film to this, Soft and Quiet, which is a film shot in real time, or made to look as if it is real time, about a very nice, tall, blonde primary school teacher who goes to a meeting with a lot of other women. You know, oh yeah, let's meet up at the local church hall and have coffee and have a discussion. All very nice. Then you realise they're white supremacists. It's some horrific stuff they're talking about. I mean, a couple of these women who are in this discussion group proudly self-describe as Nazis. And then in the course of the film, which is shot over real time, they start messing with some local women of East Asian descent. And then even for these fuckwits, it goes way, way too far. I mean, Soft and Quiet, I think, is a harsh but a brilliant film, and I do strongly recommend it.
Today, I just want us to introduce ourselves, get to know each other. There's no agenda that needs to be accomplished. I'm a teacher down at the school, and everything thus far has been a step in the right direction in the magazine, but we want to be careful with this first issue, right? We want to engage the mainstream, right? We can't come on too strong, okay? Soft on the outside, so vigorous ideas can be digested more easily. Now, we are the best secret weapon that no one checks at the door, because we tread quietly.
So yeah, Beth Araujo doesn't have the hugest profile. And another issue with this film is the company who bought it for distribution coming out of Sundance is a film called Sumerian Pictures, which started out as a record label of all things, and now they're moving into distributing films. But they've only just distributed their first cinematic release a couple of weeks ago in the States. A company who's never done this before, trying to get an Oscar campaign. I mean, is this the start of something great? Like, I mean, when Neon started distributing films, no one knew what the hell they were doing. When A24 started distributing films, nobody had heard of them. What the hell are they doing? It could be that, or it could be we're a very, very small company trying to play with the big boys and we can't do it. There's a chance it's that. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a red flag that Sumerian Pictures distributing it, but the responses coming out of Sundance were very strong. In fact, it's apparently a really, really dark film, and it won the Audience Award at Sundance as well as jury prizes. Josephine potentially could be something really, really special and really get in there. So I think right now that's a pretty safe bet. But I mean, as we saw from last year, I only got 3 out of 10 in this equivalent video last year. The last 2 films of 10 I'm really not all that confident about, but I don't honestly have too many other options right now from what I know. I mean, yes, there are some blockbuster things, but I've essentially got 3 blockbusters already, and I can't put 4 in. So it has to be something a little bit more prestige. So in my number 9 slot, I've got The Social Reckoning. I can easily see this absolutely collapsing. The fact it's Aaron Sorkin directing, which he doesn't have the greatest track record of doing. The fact it's a follow-up, a very belated follow-up to The Social Network, which deservedly has, great praise attached to it. But it's not David Fincher anymore, it's not Jesse Eisenberg anymore. It's Aaron Sorkin directing, and it's Jeremy Strong. I think excellent casting as an older Mark Zuckerberg. I can easily see this just vanishing. But I can also see there's potential there to actually get up in the reckoning, because Sony, who are distributing it, doesn't have a lot of other stuff. I mean, they've got Taika Waititi's Clara and the Sun and Until Proven Otherwise. Taika Waititi hasn't had the greatest track record recently. And yes, it's based on a Kazuo Ishiguro book, but if it's a choice of Sony pushing Clara and the Sun or pushing The Social Reckoning, they're going to push The Social Reckoning. And I think Jeremy Strong has the potential to be a legitimate contender for Best Actor. So, yeah, I don't feel really, really strongly about this, but right now I think The Social Reckoning is in at my number 9 slot. And in at my number 10 slot is another international feature, another foreign language film, All of a Sudden, from Ryusuke Hamaguchi. I already have 2 international features, 2 foreign language films in there, in Fjord and Fatherland. But looking at it one way, putting 3 international features in, I think even if there are only 2 that end up on the final list, I think it's very likely that 2 will come out of these 3. So I'm hedging my bets to some degree. And honestly, I can't think of anything better to put in at my number 10 slot than All of a Sudden. I mean, Ryusuke Hamaguchi does have the profile. I mean, he did win for Drive My Car. This is in French, which certainly helps with Cannes. Is it going to be enough? Maybe. And like I said, I don't really have anything I feel strongly about, so to some degree I'm just putting it in to hedge my bets, but I think it's got a legitimate chance of getting a nomination, but we shall see. So yeah, moving out of my top 10 of my actual nominees, I mean, what my list of contenders starts with is several films which you could classify in the blockbuster category, and many people are going to have some of, if not all of these films in their top 10. But I mean, similarly to what I said last year about one battle after another, and I was eventually proved wrong, when I think about Dune Part 3, I just don't see it. For a couple of reasons. I mean, in my first video last year, I had both Wicked for Good and Avatar Fire and Ash at near the top of my list. My thought was, oh yeah, they can't possibly miss. We know what we're getting. It's been successful in the past. Why wouldn't it be successful now? And in both cases, I was proved wrong. I mean, Wicked for Good got completely blanked. Even an original song, which I thought was an absolute guarantee, didn't even get that. So I think the idea, the concept, that because this is part of a very successful franchise, it's automatically going to be a part of the discussion again, I don't think that's necessarily true. And there's also the fact that, from what I hear, I mean, I've never read the Dune books. I mean, they're fucking bricks. I've never read them. But from what I understand, Dune Messiah, which is what this is based on, is a much, much darker, a much, much more complex story than the first two Dune films were. Yes, as far as I'm aware, it's got the big epic battles and all that kind of stuff, but it's also got some pretty dark stuff. And from what I understand, Timothée Chalamet basically turns into a villain. And are we going to be okay with that? I'm not sure we are. So yeah, I mean, the sequelitis thing, just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And the fact that apparently this is a lot darker and denser than the first films, both of those factors, I just, right now, I just don't believe in Dune Part 3. So yeah, it's not in my 10, but I think it easily could be by the end of the day, so it's just hovering under. And also just hovering under is Greta Gerwig's Narnia, which might have the subtitle The Magician's Nephew, which is apparently what it's based on. It's not The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It's the prequel novel which Greta Gerwig is adapting first. I mean, again, previous performance doesn't necessarily mean a guaranteed nomination. I mean, in this case, it's not the franchise, it's the director. I mean, Greta Gerwig has had Little Women, has had Barbie. Before that, she had Lady Bird. She has had a string of genuine, legitimate contenders and genuinely brilliant films. Is that going to continue? I'm not sure it is. Because it is Narnia, but it's not The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It's The Magician's Nephew. And yes, I trust Greta Gerwig to do big-scale films like Barbie. And the fact she actually got Netflix to release this as an IMAX release, Greta Gerwig's got a lot of pull if she managed to get that deal out of Netflix. And yes, I'm going to be seeing it in IMAX when it comes out over in Bristol. But wait and see on this one. Yes, it's going to be epic, but right now, I think when you have The Odyssey, when you have Project Hail Mary, which we already know has been a big hit critically and commercially, and Disclosure Day, I think right now I would rather put Disclosure Day into my 10 rather than Narnia. But I mean, that is a genuine debate. I mean, I don't believe in Dune Part 3 at all at this point, but I do kind of believe in Narnia. So yeah, I would not be at all surprised if this ended up in my 10, but right now it's just on the outside. And yeah, now what the hell do we do with Michael? Personally speaking, I do not want to watch this film. I do not want to support it in any way. In my mind, Michael Jackson might well have been the king of pop, but I also think he was a serial abuser of underage boys. I believe his accusers. I don't want to support this. I don't want to support his family. The fact Michael Jackson is being played by his nephew, Jafar Jackson. The fact they tried to gloss over the court cases and had to completely reshoot the ending because they didn't even bother to realise that they couldn't name the boys in film and something like this. It's a mess. And the fact it's directed by Antoine Fuqua, that's the guy. I mean, yes, Disclosure Day, but look at his other films and no, I mean, he's not an Oscar-type director. And doing something which is trying to be as expansive as this. Now, I think there's a really, really good chance that this is a gigantic box office hit. I think there are going to be people like me who just will not watch it, do not want to watch it at all. I think there are going to be people out there. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be many, many, many more people who will flock to it because, oh yeah, we want to hear the Michael Jackson hits. I can see a scenario where this is sort of like a gigantic box office hit, you know, one of the biggest hits of the year, potentially one of the biggest hits of the decade. I can see that happening. I can also see people not going out to it. The critics' response either way I think are going to be pretty bad. I think the critics are not going to embrace this. I think it's going to be too divisive to end up in the nomination list, but it has to be on a list like this, but I really don't want it to be. I don't want this to be a success. But, yeah, there we have it. I mean, it's a minor, but a part of the legacy of Michael Jackson is stuff like this. I mean, which side do you want? I mean, King of Pop, Prince of Pop, Abuser of Children. Right, moving on. Yeah, another film I'm not particularly happy with, but for different reasons. The Adventures of Cliff Booth. I mean, this feels like weird fan fiction. I'm on record of saying in other of my projects, I wasn't a big fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think the ending severely misjudges the sensitivities of the situation about the death of Sharon Tate. And the fact that there's that scene where Brad Pitt is so much cooler and so much more awesome than Bruce Lee and shows Bruce Lee how to do martial arts, essentially. I mean, fuck off. I didn't like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So the fact we're getting a sequel, why do we need a sequel to this? And having a Quentin Tarantino script directed by David Fincher? I don't think those are filmmakers which fit together particularly well. I don't think their proclivities and their sensitivities mesh all that well. I don't know about this. I can easily see it being a contender. I can also easily see it just being content for Netflix. It's just going to be released onto Netflix. People are going to watch it. Watch it while they're playing with their phones, and that might be it. I mean, like The Killer from David Fincher a couple of years ago. It could be that. It could be a contender. Again, I don't want this to be a contender because it's such a weird idea. But yeah, it pretty much has to be on a list like this. But how quickly before we can start ignoring it? We shall see. Okay, yeah. Next up, we have Sense and Sensibility, a new adaptation of Sense and Sensibility done by Georgia Oakley, who did the independent British queer film Blue Jean, which I actually really liked. I think it was a very sensitive and a very thought-provoking portrayal of a lesbian teacher in the mid-80s dealing with Thatcher's Britain and Section 8, the idea that you could not promote homosexuality in schools. So essentially every teacher had to be closeted. And what happens when a teenage girl in your care realizes, ooh, my gym teacher or my PE teacher here in the UK is a bit fruity and maybe I want to explore my own fruity side with my teacher.
I need you in two teams. Jimmy, can you get over here? Mike, over there.
So, what do you do, Jean?
I'm a teacher.
Fantastic. What do you teach?
P? Yours? Come on in.
You got a man on the scene at the moment, then?
No, I haven't, no.
You do realise that they fill our tellies with this here to distract us from what's really going on?
Not everything is political.
Of course it is.
Here at home, there's been another big demonstration against Clause 28, which seeks to stop councils from promoting homosexuality.
I've been saying this is a good idea for years. Young people have such vulnerable minds. Can anyone tell me what fight or flight means? Fight or flight?
What's wrong? You look stressed.
I don't want my students on every part of my life.
Every part of your life.
If anyone found out, I'd never work again.
The gay and lesbian lifestyle is not natural or normal, and it never will be.
What I don't get is how two girls actually...
Just ignore them.
So are you dead?
I'm not talking about me.
I mean, it's a bad situation for everybody, and you know, it was a film which dealt with immense amounts of pressure, immense amounts of anxiety. I thought Blue Jean was an excellent film. And I was fascinated to see what Jojo Oakley would do next. And the fact she's choosing to do Sense and Sensibility. On one hand, we don't really need another version of Sense and Sensibility. I mean, the Ang Lee version was very good. There's been multiple TV versions which have also been very good. But why not? Daisy Edgar-Jones is a great actress. I'm not so familiar with Esme Creed-Mills, but from the little I've seen of her, I think she's fine too. But it's a prestige piece. I mean, when we saw earlier this year with Wuthering Heights, which I will actually be talking about later, there is a market for this kind of thing. I think there's a very strong chance that Sense and Sensibility will be a very big hit. It's interesting that it's distributed by Focus, because Focus doesn't have an awful lot else. It's got Werewolf, the new Robert Eggers film, horror. It's got The Uprising from Paul Greengrass. Medieval English history done by Paul Greengrass. Is that a good fit? I'll be talking about that later. Death of a Salesman from Chinonye Chukwu is almost certainly not coming out this year, but Focus have already got that. Pressure from Anthony Morass. I think that's actually just going to be a Grey Pound kind of film, Second World War story, nothing else to it. That feels like what that is. So yeah, I mean, I can very, very easily see a scenario where Focus Features puts all its efforts behind Sense and Sensibility. And in that scenario, why not? Why not put it quite near the top? I think it's certainly worth discussing at this point in the list. Speaking of Robert Eggers' Werewolf, that is the next film on the list. Robert Eggers has a very particular approach, a very particular style. His last film, Nosferatu, got a lot of technicals. Maybe it was in contention for Best Picture, but didn't actually get there. And I think that is probably going to be the same for Werewolf. I mean, I think a negative for Werewolf compared to Nosferatu is that this is not based on an already existing story. This is not a remake of the absolute foundation of horror cinema is Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu. Without Nosferatu, horror cinema is radically different. So you're remaking that, you get attention. Werewolf is a completely original story just with a werewolf character, which I think is a negative. I think makeup and hairstyling, guaranteed nomination. Probably production design, maybe cinematography, because Robert Eggers works with some astonishing cinematographers. Best Picture. I mean, yes, we are in an era where horror cinema is being taken more seriously. I mean, last year, Weapons got an Oscar win. Sinners got many Oscar wins. Frankenstein got many Oscar wins. You can make a strong argument that that's horror. So horror cinema is more accessible, more approachable, more respectable. But I'm still not sure it's going to be enough for Werewolf to actually get anywhere at the Oscars. So we shall see. And yeah, another blockbuster type film is Ridley Scott's new film, The Dog Stars. which honestly we don't know a great deal about at this point. It's basically a post-apocalyptic thing. Somebody working in a small airport has a little plane. It's probably the only people alive. It's just him and a grizzled old army veteran and a dog at this little airport. Then he starts hearing signals from somewhere else. Is there a utopia which has survived the apocalypse? I mean, it is one of those things that it could either be a big, grand, epic, award-baited type film, or it could just be another sci-fi film from Ridley Scott. It might even be both, but I don't know enough about this yet to say one way or the other, so I think it needs to be on the list, and this is probably about the right area for it. I need to know more about the Dog Stars. I mean, because Ridley Scott can really go either way. Next we have Luca Guadagnino with his film Artificial, which I think is going for a similar approach to something like The Social Network and The Social Reckoning, and even something like Blackberry from a few years ago. I mean, this is apparently about that brief weird period where the founder of OpenAI got fired from the company and then within a week was rehired. Talking about AI in the modern era, that I think is something that is appealing. And the woman at the Cannes press conference, which I watched far too much of, she talked a lot about AI and how cinema is about people. Yeah, I think it's just talking about those kinds of things in the current environment. But, I mean, there are several negatives about this. Do people actually care about OpenAI? It's very, very recent history. Do we have the context to talk about it yet? The Academy doesn't like Luca Guadagnino. With the exception of Call Me By Your Name, it's never really gone for a Luca Guadagnino film. And apparently, I mean, we need to take this with a grain of salt, because last year there were early reports that Hamnet had test screenings and weren't great, but apparently test screenings have happened for Artificial and they have not gone well. So I think there's lots and lots of things saying this isn't going to be a thing. Oh, and of course, After the Hunt. I mean, in my video last year, After the Hunt was my number one film in sort of like April 2025. I wonder if Luca Guadagnino is ever again going to be a thing at the Oscars, but it probably needs to be on a list like this. We shall see. Next we have At the Sea from Cornel Mondruccio. This is an interesting one because on paper, I think there are things to recommend this. There are things which might say Oscar bait. I think it stars Amy Adams as a recovering addict. I think that's something that Amy Adams can definitely get her teeth into, get yet another Oscar nomination. Is she ever going to win one of these Oscars? Who knows? It could be that. I really like Cornel Mondruccio's work. His last English language film was Pieces of a Woman, which I thought was outstanding. I think Vanessa Kirby deserved to win Best Actress that year for Pieces of a Woman. So the fact that Cornel Mondruccio got that performance out of Vanessa Kirby, and Amy Adams is a very, very talented actress. I mean, Night Bitch. Why did nobody pay attention to Night Bitch? I thought that was an excellent film, but I think at the very, very least it's an acting contender. But this has already premiered at the Berlin Film Festival, and it did okay, but it doesn't have distribution yet. And at this stage, that's a red flag. Maybe we eventually will need to pay attention to At the Sea, but right now I don't think it's actually anything. And honestly, I don't think the drama is anything either. I mean, I mostly put this on the list because this is one of the very few films I've actually seen on this list. I only saw it a couple of days ago. I don't think it's a contender. I've been wrong before. I've been wrong many times before, but I don't think this is a contender. Maybe original screenplay, but I have issues with the ending. I think it kind of peters out and raises questions it doesn't have the time or the inclination to answer. I think the performances of Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are both good, and Alana Haim as well, in a very cool supporting role. I think the conversation, I mean, I'm not going to give too much away because I do basically recommend the drama, and there's a chance you know what it's actually about. But I'm not going to say if in case you want to go in open. But the conversations it has and the ways it has the conversations it has, I think are very interesting and do raise some interesting questions. I think to some degree this is quite a didactic film. I think Christopher Borgley definitely has a point of view and is wanting to promote this point of view, which is not always to the film's benefit. But I think the relationship and the conflict between Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, particularly between the couple and Alana Haim, I think it's done pretty well, and it does raise some fascinating questions. I think it is one of those films that if you do go to this on date nights, which I honestly don't think is a good idea, but if you did go to this on date night, it's the kind of film that you're coming out with your significant other and that would start a conversation, and maybe it's a conversation you don't actually want to have. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Don't think it's a genuine contender, but it is interesting. I just wanted to talk about it because it's one of the few, contenders I've actually seen. So, yeah, there's the drama. Hello. During the editing process, when I'm putting together the little cards together, I realised I miscounted on my file and I only talked about 39 films instead of 40. So at this point in the video, I need to put in an extra one. So what I'm putting in this slot is Being Human, or Being Human, the new film from Sian Heder, the director of Coda. This is about a disability activist, a wheelchair user. I think this incident was covered in the excellent documentary from a few years ago called Crip Camp.
Have to catch Jeanette and find yourself.
There I was in Woodstock.
You wouldn't be picked to be on a team back home, but at Jeanette, you had to go up the bat.
Even when we were that young, we helped empower each other. It was allowing us to recognize that the status quo is not what it needed to be.
The world always wants us dead. We live with that reality.
At the time, so many kids just like me were being sent to institutions. It was just a continual struggle.
Most disabled people, like myself, are unable to use public transportation.
We needed a civil rights law of our own.
A rehabilitation program has been vetoed by the president because it was cost prohibitive.
We decided we were going to have a demonstration.
You get the call to action, to the barricades.
A small army of the handicapped have occupied this building for the past 11 days.
So many people from Camp Jeanette found their way into the building.
The FBI cut off the phones. The deaf people went, we know what to do. That's how we communicated to the people outside the building. The Black Panther Party would bring a hot meal. We were like this.
We are the strongest political force in this country.
We will no longer allow the government to oppress disabled individuals. And I would appreciate it if you would stop shaking your head in agreement when I don't think you understand what we are talking about.
But this is about a disability activist who staged a sit-in in the San Francisco federal building in the 1970s in order to get disability rights. And Judith Hoyman is being played by the wheelchair-using actress Ruth Madeley, who's a really cool actress. She's been in Doctor Who and other things on UK TV. It looks like a standard biopic, but Sian Heder has proved that pretty standard stuff can get Oscar attention. So it's a possibility, certainly since it's being distributed by Apple, as Coda was. And Apple don't really have anything else, so yeah, I think the bonus content when I realised I'd miscounted is Being Human from Sian Heder. Okay, I'm going to wrap up this segment of Contenders with a few international features foreign language films that maybe get in the list, but not. I mean, I've already talked about a few of them And right now, I do think that Fjord, Fatherland, and All of a Sudden are the strongest international contenders, but you never know. So, Pedro Almodovar has a new film out, Bitter Christmas, which did get into competition at Cannes, which, as I said a little earlier, is a little bit surprising. But this sounds like a pretty standard story. Infidelity and being left at Christmas. Fine. Doesn't have anybody really, really famous. Doesn't have anybody with true international profile. Although I'm betting Rossi de Palma's in it because she's always in Pedro Almodovar films, but she's not one of the leads. Pedro Almodovar has mellowed, I think, which is a problem because when Almodovar first came out, he was, flamboyant and extravagant and provocative. Things happened in Almodovar films which just didn't happen in any other films, even in other Spanish films. But it's not really the same anymore. I think he's mellowed, and when you're not trying to be provocative, not trying to be outrageous, when you try something small and intimate like the Room Next Door, or The Girl Next Door, I mean that one that won the Golden Lion a couple of years ago, it was fine, but it didn't feel like an Almodovar film. And I think in order to actually get anywhere, even and we're going to have to see how the reviews are coming out of Cannes, but I don't expect Bitter Christmas to actually do anything at Cannes. But it is in competition, which I do find kind of interesting. So yeah, it's on the list. And yeah, now we have the two Cora-Ada films. Sheep in the Box, which did get into competition at Cannes, and Look Back, which didn't and wasn't really expected to. Sheep in the Box is a AI type story, adopting a robot child, kind of similar to Clara and the Sun from Taika Waititi. And you could go in many different directions, but the fact it's Hirokazu Cora-Ada, I mean, I think what Cora-Ada does is the perfectly crafted family drama. I mean, a subtitle to so many Cora-Ada films is, what makes a family? That's a question which gets asked in the vast majority of Cora-Ada films. And that sounds like what this is. And it's fascinating that it did get into competition at Cannes. And then you have Look Back, which is an adaptation of a manga, which has already been turned into a great animated feature. Do we need another version? I mean, I think there's a chance that people will not have read the manga or seen the cartoon. So having a version of this story, which is a great, great story, having a version of this story which people will actually see, that's important. But it's being distributed by G-Kids, the company whose stock in trade is kids' cartoons. It's probably not going to be anything. I mean, I really, really want to see Look Back because, like I said, I really like the anime.
藤野ちゃん、今週の4コマもすっごく面白かったよ。将来さ、漫画家なれるじゃん。漫画家か。今日もって誰それ？
隣の組にいる不登校の子。
藤野先生。今日もと。藤野先生は漫画の天才です。私もっと絵うまくなるね。藤野ちゃんみたいに。今日もとも私の背中見て成長するんだな。あんたいつまで漫画描いてんの？そろそろ絵描くの卒業した方がいいよ。何してんだ私。じゃあ藤野ちゃんはなんで描いてるの？ごめん。なんで？私なんで描いたんだろう。もっと絵うまくなりたいもん。描いても何も役に立たないのに。私部屋から出てよかった。すごく楽しかった。またね。まだね。
And I love Cora-Ada. this is going to be nothing in terms of awards. Yeah, and then finally we have the new film from Lee Chang-dong, Possible Love, which is a Netflix film, which means it was ineligible to be part of Cannes because they made that statement a few years ago. No Netflix distributed. It's all about cinema, which they're perfectly within their rights to do, but in certain cases it does limit you as to what can be achieved. And Lee Chang-dong did the film Burning, which was a Korean film released in the same year as Parasite. And personally speaking, I like Burning a lot more than Parasite. This sounds like kind of one of those old Iñárritu-style hyperlink films like Babel or Amores Perros or Beautiful. Sort of interconnected stories, interconnected relationships, which could just be really, really average. I mean, it could be a Lifetime movie or a Hallmark movie. But coming from somebody like Lee Chang-dong, I'm really, really fascinated by this one. It's going to be interesting seeing what South Korea submits to the Oscars in the international feature Oscar category, whether it's going to be this or Hope from Na Dong-jing. I even saw a historical epic. I mean, it just happened to fit into my schedule that it was playing at the cinema over in Bristol. It was the King's Attendant, I think it was called. Sort of a medieval historical epic. That was pretty good as well. Didn't go in the directions I expected at all. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Korea submits to the Oscars, but probably not a contender for Best Picture, but maybe keep an eye out for it in the international sections. Okay, and now in the final section of this video, we have 15 films that I've classified as maybe. And we start with a couple of films which have been part of these videos for as long as I've been doing them, starting with The Rivals of Ramsay King. I think any momentum that this film once had has just completely dissipated. Coming out of the 2025 South by Southwest Film Festival, it spent so long not being distributed by anybody, and then Black Bear picked it up, one of the first times they've actually distributed a film, and they don't really know what to do with it, I don't think. As far as I'm aware, it's being released in August in the States, which is not prime awards season. I mean, maybe it's going to be a contender for Matthew McConaughey, and I think it's Angelina Lookingglass, I think is the girl in it, or the woman in it. And apparently it's got a lot of bluegrass music in it, so maybe it's going to be a player in Best Original Song. But I think there was a moment where this had potential, this had momentum, and that's just completely gone. So yeah, I think we still need to talk about The Rivals of Ramsay King, but not in any serious way. And the same thing can be said for Kent Jones's Late Fame, film starring Willem Dafoe and Greta Lee. This actually premiered at last year's Venice Film Festival, and yeah, it's not really gone anywhere. I mean, it got okay reviews coming out of Venice, but it still doesn't have distribution. So I think Kent Jones has something of a profile. I mean, his last film before this was a film called Diane, which was all the way back in 2016. But he's also one of the creative director or something of the New York Film Festival. So he's got a lot of friends in the industry, which probably helped it get any kind of attention. And it did premiere at Venice, not in competition, but it did premiere at Venice last year. I think that Late Fame is just not going to be anything at all. And I did quite like Diane, but yeah, it doesn't feel like anything really strong. Oh, hang on, I've just looked it up. No, it does have distribution. Magnolia Pictures are distributing it, which is, yeah, not really anything. I mean, they mostly do online stuff, so yeah, I think it's going to get a very, very small distribution. So yeah, Late Fame, I don't think is anything, but it was on my list for a lot of my videos last year, so it maintains over to this year. And Yeah. Next, we have a film which I think is going to be pretty high on a lot of people's lists, but I really don't know about this one, despite the fact it's a film from Joel Cohen. It's called Jack of Spades, and this is the first film from Joel Cohen since the tragedy of Macbeth. We don't know a great deal about this. I mean, there was some talk that it was going to be in the Cannes lineup. It wasn't. It's, a gothic mystery set in 19th century Scotland. Okay, but that doesn't give us a lot of information, and whispers are that it's really, really dark, which I don't think helps. And it also doesn't currently have distribution. A Joel Cohen film exists and it doesn't yet have distribution. That's a bit of a red flag. Once we've actually seen it, once it has distribution, I can easily see this shooting up the list. But for right now, we don't really know what this film is. And you can kind of say the same film for the next film on the list, Ink, from Danny Boyle. This is based on a successful play, which is a loose biography of Rupert Murdoch in kind of the same way that Succession is a loose biography of Rupert Murdoch. Based on a very successful play, it's got a really cool cast in it, including Jack O'Connell from Sinners. This doesn't have distribution either, and despite the fact it doesn't have US distribution yet, despite the fact it's a Danny Boyle film. Again, once it comes out, once it's guaranteed to come out this year, very strong chance it's going to shoot up the list. But for right now, don't know enough about this one. It's probably going to come out this year. It's probably going to be good. But right now, I don't have enough faith in it to put it any higher. Almost certainly coming out this year is Madden from David O. Russell. The fact that David O. Russell is kind of out of director jail now. I mean, by all accounts, David O. Russell is a complete shit. He mistreats his cast, he mistreats his crew, and eventually people just got tired of it. And he struggles to make films over the last few years. I mean, he made Amsterdam, which I kind of liked. I mean, I don't think it deserved the vitriol it ended up getting in the critics. Amsterdam was okay, it wasn't a contender. And Madden, I mean, a biography of John Madden, and specifically about making the Madden video game, and having Nicolas Cage playing John Madden in a fat suit, and having Al Davis, his old boss at the Oakland Raiders, being played by Christian Bale. Okay shout for makeup and hairstyling, because, I mean, the actors, Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale, look nothing like John Madden and Al Davis. And I've seen pictures in it. Okay. But it's a biographical film about making a video game. I mean, we've done that with Tetris. We've done it with other corporate products like Flamin' Hot, and there was that Beanie Babies movie, whatever the hell that was called, and Blackberry. We've gone through a few of these, and is that Oscar bait? I don't think it is. And do we still want to pay attention to what David O. Russell does? Maybe not. Oh yeah, right. Next on the list is A Long Winter from Andrew Haigh. Now, Andrew Haigh is a filmmaker I love. His film Weekend, I think, is one of the best queer romances of the last 20 years. His film 45 Years is a brilliant exploration of romance in later life. And All of Us Strangers, I think, was an outstanding film which got cruelly overlooked a couple of years ago. I thought that was brilliant. Andrew Haigh is an outstanding filmmaker. And he's got a new film out called A Long Winter. Is this going to be another step along Andrew Haigh's career? It's certainly interesting. At the very least, Andrew Haigh is a filmmaker that needs to be paid attention to. Is it going to get all the way into Oscar contention? Probably not. BAFTA contention? Maybe. Oscar contention, we shall have to see. But it is distributed by Mubi, and they have something of a history of success, so we shall see. And yeah, The Uprising, which I've briefly mentioned already because this is distributed by Focus. Paul Greengrass doing the Middle Ages. The Peasants' Revolt, basically. Wat Tyler talking to a 14-year-old Richard II. It's a fascinating moment in British and world history, for that matter. There was a brief moment where maybe the monarchy could have fallen. The Peasants' Revolt was a big enough issue, even though peasants weren't really possible. It was essentially a middle-class revolt. What middle class existed in the 13th century, 14th century. It's a fascinating story, and making a film out of that, and having Woody Norman, the kid from Come On, Come On, play the young Richard II, that's cool. But Paul Greengrass, the shaky cam guy, doing this film, there's a really strong juxtaposition between content and creator. So I don't know about that one. But I'm absolutely fascinated by it. I mean, I can't wait to see it. Whether it will be any good or not, that's another question. And speaking about wondering if it will be any good, Wuthering Heights from Emerald for Now. Again, similar to what I was talking about with the drama earlier, I'm basically including this just because I've seen it and I kind of want to talk about it. I think production design, costume design, absolutely. I mean, some stunning costumes. Maybe even cinematography. But not only is it not the greatest adaptation of Wuthering Heights, it kind of misunderstands the whole book. It gets it so wrong. Why call it Wuthering Heights? I mean, yes, it does have the quotation marks around it. And Emerald Fennell has said this is the film that she was kind of making in her horny 14-year-old mind when she first read Wuthering Heights. And honestly, I don't think Wuthering Heights is a horny book at all. I mean, I'm old and I'm male and I've only just read it. Well, listened to the audiobook. But Heathcliff is a manipulative, abusive, controlling bastard. He's not sexy. He's not romantic. He's toxic. These are two toxic people having a toxic relationship with each other and dying. It's not sexy. But Emerald Fennell ignores that and makes it sexy. I mean, God help us, Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. Yes, please. But it's not Wuthering Heights. So yeah, as a film, Wuthering Heights doesn't work. As a demonstration of extraordinary costume design, great production design, good cinematography, yeah, technicals all the way. Oh, maybe even original song, because Charlie XCX has a couple of original songs in Wuthering Heights as well. That's it. Okay, next up on the list is... I think genuinely this is my most anticipated film of 2026. And that is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, the new film from Jane Schoenbrunn. And originally this wasn't on my list of 40 films, but it's opening in certain regard. I really hope this means it's good and it transcends its queer meta slasher movie narrative. There's a chance this is going to be great. I really, really hope this is good because I love the work of Jane Schoenbrunn. I mean, not only I Saw the TV Glow, but their first narrative feature, We're All Going to the World's Fair, I thought was an extraordinary piece of work. Incredibly low budget, but just so haunting, I think is the best way to describe it. Actually, haunting is a good way of describing I Saw the TV Glow as well. So Jane Schoenbrunn, with the backing of Mubi and with Gillian Anderson in the film, and judging by the teaser trailer we've already seen, it looks like Gillian Anderson might actually be a pretty big part of the film. I think there's a chance that this is not only good, but also gets attention from the awards bodies. And I really, really hope that's the case because I want Jane Schoenbrunn to succeed so much. and if she got this queer meta horror movie into serious awards consideration, which I do think is a possibility, perhaps not a very strong possibility, but a possibility that they get into genuine Oscar contention. I really want this one to work. And yeah, Teenage Sex at Death at Camp Miasma is I think my most anticipated film of 2026. Okay, now we come to a string of films which did pretty well at Sundance. I mean, Josephine was the big hit coming out of Sundance, but there were other films which got attention and got bought. And one of the bigger buys at Sundance was The Invite, which is the new film from Olivia Wilde. It's a 4-person story. I think it's Olivia Wilde, Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton, I think is the 4 people. I mean, sort of like a couple invite the new neighbours to a dinner party and weird shit happens. I don't know. But, I mean, a much more small-scale film from the mess that was Olivia Wilde's last film, Don't Worry Darling, which I was so upset about and disappointed by, because Booksmart is such a great film, and then Olivia Wilde wasted her goodwill on Don't Worry Darling. But, I mean, having a much more small-scale film, and the fact that A24 bought it out of Sundance for a decent amount of money, and you can see a scenario where this might actually be A24's really big push come awards season, because right now they don't have a great deal else. I mean, they're probably going to buy stuff, but right now, I mean, the drama, as I said earlier, I don't really think is going to be a thing. There's Misty Green from Chris Rock. That could be a thing, depending on how it goes. No One Cares from Jesse Eisenberg. I think it's interesting that wasn't in the Cannes lineup. Prime Time from Lance Oppenheim. A, might not be ready in 2026, and B, we've kind of already done that in the documentary Predators, which is a film I strongly recommend. I think that might actually be my favourite documentary last year. And Tony, the biopic of Anthony Bourdain from Matt Johnson, who did Blackberry and Nirvana the Show, the movie. Meh. So, I mean, I think that right now, I think A24's big push might be The Invite. I mean, that's very, very likely to change. I think they are going to buy stuff throughout the course of the year, probably out of Venice as well. If A24 really pushes The Invite, maybe it actually gets somewhere. We shall see. Another film coming out of Sundance with some amount of buzz is a film called Bedford Park, directed by Stephanie Ahn. A film set in the Korean community of New Jersey, I think it is. Or, I don't know, somewhere in America. I mean, basically sort of like 2 lost souls meeting and connecting. The kind of thing that done right can be, you know, a really outstanding, transcendent piece of art. Maybe like Past Lives comes to mind. I mean, maybe just because of the Korean thing, but it could be that, or it could just be anything. But the fact it played at Sundance and got bought at Sundance by Sony Classics, who honestly, again, don't have a lot right now. They've got another film they bought out of Sundance, Hachan, Shake Your Booty, but that doesn't look like it's going to be a serious contender. And Bitter Christmas, Sony Classics have got that from the Almodovar film. But yeah, they don't actually have a lot right now. So who knows? Bedford Park, it is almost certainly not going to be anything. But it got attention at Sundance, and that's always worth having a little bit of attention paid to it. So maybe Bedford Park, and maybe also Take Me Home, which did seem to get a lot of attention at Sundance. I think that also played at Berlin, Take Me Home. Yeah, it did do the Sundance Berlin combo, and that's usually a good sign. However, it hasn't yet got distribution, which is maybe an issue. Well, it is an issue for a very small film. I mean, this definitely feels like a Sundance film. A woman dealing with her aging parents in a Florida heatwave and trying to survive, basically. Maybe has sort of like a Sean Baker vibe. Feels a little bit like the Florida Project, maybe. But it got attention, got into Sundance and Berlin, which is not nothing. Doesn't have distribution, and it's a very, very small film. So probably not going to be anything, but I think worth putting on a list like this. And now we come to a list of films. The last 3 films on the list are ones that, if I'm absolutely 100% certain they're coming out in 2026, I think I would put them quite high on the list, but I really don't know. The first one, from what I understand, might not even be finished now, and at best it might premiere at Venice, but Behemoth from Tony Gilroy is a film I'm interested in. I mean, Tony Gilroy's a fascinating filmmaker. I mean, he got into the Oscar conversation with Michael Clayton, and then he also did the film Nightcrawler. I mean, that is a fucked up film, but Nightcrawler is excellent. I mean, one of Jake Gyllenhaal's best performances. And Tony Gilroy hasn't actually made a film in a while, and this is apparently about film composers in Hollywood. It's got something like 11 credited composers working on this film. Sounds fascinating, and it's also industry inside baseball kind of thing. I mean, the Academy likes voting for films about the craft of acting or whatever. That probably helps Tony Gilroy's Behemoth. At best, I think that's going to be at Venice at the end of the year. And the last 2 films, there was some talk that these would be in the Cannes lineup, but neither were. First, we have Cry to Heaven from Tom Ford. I mean, Tom Ford is somebody who just doesn't make films very much, or at least not until this point. Apparently, he's publicly stated that from now on he is going to be a filmmaker, but he works in fashion. He's head of one of the famous companies. Is it Gucci? Or I don't know. He's got this film Cry to Heaven, which is based on an Anne Rice novel about castrato in the 16th, 17th century, taking revenge on a family member who castrated you in order to keep your soprano voice. Sounds kind of lascivious, which is in keeping with what Tom Ford has done in the past. But yeah, if I knew this was coming out this year, and if it had distribution, which it doesn't have yet, I would put this pretty high, but I don't know for sure if Cry to Heaven is coming out this year. Very much the same as De Noche from Todd Haynes. Of these last 3, I think this is the least likely to come out in 2026. I don't think this is anywhere near ready. But it's been talked about, and again, if I knew it was coming out in 2026, this would be a serious contender, because Todd Haynes is a highly respected filmmaker, although the Academy doesn't particularly like him. I mean, May December didn't do much, and Carol, I think, got outright snubbed that year. But this is a film about queer romance in the Latin community, I think in Mexico and in Southern California. I think it's set in the 50s. I mean, this was the film Joaquin Phoenix completely screwed up by pulling out of at the very last minute and costing studios a lot of money. He's now been replaced by Pedro Pascal, which, depending on what the film ends up being, that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. A new Todd Haynes film, I think it's worth paying attention to. I really, really don't know if this is coming out in 2026. Once I know it's coming out, and once I know who's distributing it, this again will be shooting up the list. But I think I wanted to talk about it, I needed to talk about it, but it needs to be at the bottom, because I just don't know if De Noche is a 2026 film. But if it is, I think it will be a contender. So there we have it. a very, very long film, dealing with both the Cannes lineup announcement and these 40 films in my first Oscar prediction video of 2026 for the 2027 ceremony. Yeah, this is very, very long. So yeah, I best just wrap this up, not keep you hanging around any longer. If you've watched this far into the video, maybe I deserve a like. You can also leave a comment, hit the notification bell, subscribe, do anything which helps the algorithm promote this tiny, tiny little channel. Have a look around the channel, maybe you find something you like. I mean, I'm doing Charmed TV reactions. Actually, you probably can't see that, so I'm probably, yeah. That's a poster from Charmed. I also do movie reactions. The last one I published was Sam Raimi's film Send Help. I'm planning on doing one for the Pixar film Hoppers pretty soon, well, as soon as it becomes available online. Have a look around, you might find something. But for right now, I think that is where I leave you. So, all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I will see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.